The Raiders just lost to Indy with basically an ESPN analyst as their head coach. That's an oversimplification. Jeff Saturday played for 14 years in the NFL, but Jeff Saturday had never been a head coach before, and he just got to Indy. Like 2 weeks ago, he was working for ESPN. He got to the building, and in his first game, he beat the Raiders. And 2 weeks ago, the Raiders lost to New Orleans 24-0. I am not really sure which loss is worse. The loss to New Orleans, where you didn't score and you looked terrible, or this one to Indy and Jeff Saturday, a coach who's never coached in the NFL before and just got there a week ago. I'm not really sure. The Raiders are 2-7 right now. 6 of their 7 losses have been by 1 score. They lost to LA by 5 points. They lost to Arizona by 6. They lost to Tennessee by 2. They lost by 1 at Kansas City. On the road against Kansas City, a juggernaut. They lost by 1. They lost by 7 in Jacksonville, and now they've lost by 5 to Indy. The only loss all year for the Raiders that hasn't been a 1-score loss was that blowout, awful loss to New Orleans. So it's interesting. The Raiders are in games. Like, they're close, they're competitive, and they're losing every single week. It's just been a nightmare season, frankly, for the Raiders and their first-year head coach, Josh McDaniels. And Josh McDaniels has been a head coach before. He coached briefly in Denver, funny enough, a division rival of the Raiders. He was in Denver for 1 season and 12 games, and he got fired in year 2 when they started 3-9. Now he's been in Vegas for 9 games, and in his time as an NFL head coach, Jeff McDaniels is 13. Josh McDaniels. Jeff Daniels is the actor from that show. Oh man, The Newsroom, I believe. In his career as a head coach, Josh McDaniels is 13-24 as a head coach, and it's bad. It's not going well. And this weekend in Indy, they had a lead in the fourth quarter, and they lost. And Josh McDaniels, a guy who's been a head coach before, a guy who's coached in the NFL for years alongside Bill Belichick and coached Tom Brady and won Super Bowls. He coached against Jeff Saturday. I like, for him to lose to Jeff Saturday, who'd never coached before a day in his life in the NFL, is deeply embarrassing and not a good look at all. And after the game, Raiders quarterback Derek Carr was crying in his press conference in frustration. And you gotta feel for Derek Carr. The dude has been through a lot. I made a whole list of stuff that Derek Carr has endured throughout his entire career. He started in Oakland in 2014. The team moved cities to Vegas. He's had coaches fired. He's had 6 head coaches. This is only year 9 in the NFL for Derek Carr, mind you. That's an insane rate of new coaches. Like, 6 coaches in 9 years is ridiculous. There have been scandals. He was winning with John Gruden, and then John Gruden got in trouble and left. Teammates have had trouble off the field. Derek Carr found a way to win a playoff game with an interim head coach, Rich Bisaccia, a special teams coordinator. The Raiders are a disaster, and I just feel bad for Derek Carr because he's dealt with a lot of crap that has not been his fault, and he gets so much hate. Derek Carr gets hated on a ton, both in the Raiders fan base and in the NFL in general. And I get it. Derek Carr is not Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, but Derek Carr is not a bad quarterback. Derek Carr does a lot of stuff really, really well. And I almost feel a need to defend his honor because I have watched Derek Carr not only go through so much bad with the Raiders organization, but he's also won them a lot of games. He's played really well at times. And it's such a frustrating thing because if Derek Carr was with a good organization and a good coach and a good team, he would so clearly win. If you put Derek Carr in Minnesota right now, he would dominate. Throwing to Adam Thielen and TJ Hawkinson and Justin Jefferson, he would destroy people with Kevin O'Connell as his head coach. Dalvin Cook as his running back. If you put Derek Carr in Miami with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, he'd be unbelievable. He'd be better than Tua. And I would say that with respect to Tua. Derek Carr is He's been clutch at times in his career. He's made a lot of big plays. He's won games for their franchise. And yet he still gets hate. Nobody believes in him. And it's crazy to me that people seem to overlook how poorly run his teams have been over and over again. They hired Mike Mayock as a general manager, who was a fun broadcaster, but not a good general manager. They had a coach, John Gruden, come and go. They had the amount of crap he's dealt with. Remember when he got Antonio Brown? Yeah, briefly, Derek Carr had the glimmer of hope he would have Antonio Brown as a star receiver, but Antonio Brown was a disaster and he left. And it's like, I just feel so bad for Derek Carr. And I wish more people understood and did too, because I've watched him make really good throws in his career and do really well. And I don't know how emotionally he still has fight in him after what his career has been through. I guess money talks, right? He'll play for money. But at this point, I just want to see Derek Carr go to a different organization. I mean, I would love to see Derek Carr as the Patriots quarterback. Or, you know what? You know where Derek Carr could do really well? The Colts. Or, Indy, Seattle, the Giants. There are so many places that Derek Carr could go. Just please, if Derek Carr ever leaves the Raiders, which I don't know that he ever will. He's very loyal. I just hope Derek Carr never goes to the Washington football team, because the Commanders are the worst run organization by a mile in the NFL, and that would certainly be a step down for him. But there's not a lot of places Derek Carr could go that would be more poorly run than the Raiders have been during his time there. And I want that said, because Derek Carr gets hated on all the time, and his team is terrible. And so much has gone wrong that is out of his control, and people just regularly forget that. And it makes me a little bit frustrated for Derek Carr.